But anyway, let me read this, read our prayer. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Amen. So what we will do, we are starting today. We're still in the book of Exodus. We're going to begin chapter 30. And okay, now there's we've been going over a lot of detail in the construction of the Mishkan, the tent, and now we're going to receive more information on more construction of items to assist and to go through the rituals that have to take place. Okay. So David or Michael, whoever would like to read, please. We are on Exodus 30, verse 1.
Well, why don't you let me start the reading and then Michael can do the next
one. Okay. Why don't you go through 1 through 5?
And thou shalt make an altar to burn incense upon. Of acacia wood shalt thou make it. Cubit shall be the length thereof, and a cubit shall be the breadth thereof. 4 square shall it be, and 2 cubits shall be the height thereof. The horns thereof shall be of one piece with it, and thou shalt overlay it with pure gold, the top thereof, and the sides thereof round about, and the horns thereof, and thou shalt make unto it a crown of gold round about. And 2 golden rings shalt thou make for it under the crown thereof, upon the 2 ribs thereof, upon the 2 sides of it shalt thou make them, and they shall be for places whose staves wherewith he bear it. And thou shalt make the staves of acacia wood, and overlay them with gold, and be sure to pet any dog that happens to be barking.
Okay.
Very cute. Thank you.
Okay. Anyway, this is very straightforward. When the term altar is made, it is not it's offering. It's an offering of the incense that we will learn how to make in a short while. It's not another location where an animal sacrifice or grain sacrifice would occur. So, any other comments about it? So this was considered another important object. And if somebody would care to read verses 6 through 10.
I'll do that.
Okay, thank you, Michael.
Yeah, you're welcome. By the way, how is Susan?
She's doing well, thank you.
Okay.
And I assume Betty is doing well too.
Not really.
Oh, okay. Well,
but anyway,
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I'll talk to you maybe towards the end.
Okay.
Of the place it. Okay. Let's see. Chapter 30.
Yes.
Place it in front of the curtain that is over the ark of the pact, in front of the cover that is over the pact, where I will meet with you. On it, Aaron shall burn aromatic incense. He shall burn it every morning when he tends the lamps. And Aaron shall burn it at twilight when he lights the lamp. A regular incense offering before the Lord throughout the ages. You shall not You shall not offer alien incense on it, or burnt offering, or a meal offering. Neither shall you pour a libation on it. Once a year, Aaron shall perform purification upon its horns with blood of the sin offering of out of purification. Purification shall be performed upon it once a year throughout the ages. It is most holy to the Lord.
Okay. So we're building a location now where God is going to appear. All right. Any comments about this? Yes, Don.
Just a question, Marty. On verse 6 at the end, where I will meet with thee. What is the Hebrew for that? What is there?
Oh golly! If I have to defer that to Rabbi Mary. Rabbi, could you in Hebrew? What does it? Don, you want to ask your question again? I don't know if.
I don't know if Rabbi Mary, are you hearing us? Your mic was off. Turn your mic on. Rabbi Mary, turn your mic on.
Muted.
Yeah, good.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah, my question was.
Well, it says where I'll meet. Yeah, if I add, is one of the words for meet. Although the root of the word is testimony, testify, but it is to encounter you. And it is very foreign, Don, I agree with you. What do you mean that God is going to meet with him there? You know, why should he build something special to meet with him? It's a very difficult point for me, and it was before too that it appears on that's on 6. I would translate that, or not translate, but interpret that as a point of Holy of Holies kind of thing, because it's an anthropomorphic kind of explanation as well. It's like, where do we meet? I mean, religiously. I'm not talking about going to the Grand Canyon or to a spectacular place to meet with God, but when we open the Aron, the Ark, and we take the Torah is more holy than sitting with a book, I would say. So maybe as holier it gets, the more chance, or that's the place that we are going to meet with Holy of Holy. But this is my interpretation, and I'm just thinking now as I go along, because it's weird to me too, Dawn. That's where I'm going to meet with you. But there are several points, that it said, I'll meet with you in the center of the ark that you're carrying. I'll meet with you. That's my explanation. Any one of you that have another explanation, I think it will fly as well.
Well, thank you for that. The reason I asked was that up until then, God had only met directly with Moses, and
right,
at least
right.
within the Exodus. And
you're right.
All of a sudden, this sets up a terrific expectation. Whoa, God's going to come down and meet with the priests,
but not talk. It just meet.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks.
That's why I'm saying it's more like an encounter. It's more like the holy, and if it's the Holy of Holy, no one else can come, but he can come. I don't have a better explanation than that. I can research that. I'll look at it up and give you either an email or answer next week. I don't know.
Thanks. I didn't want to hold us up. Yeah.
The incense is used in many cultures. And it is, what are its uses? Anybody? Why do different cultures use incense? Yeah, okay, Amy, you had your hand up first, Amy.
Well, the Arabs, the Muslims, will use incense. For instance, if you come to my house, I will burn incense to welcome you, a sweet smell, a pleasant smell to welcome you. And then they'll take their robes and wave them around the incense so they can carry the sweet memory of our meal together or our gathering home with them. And it lingers as a memory. So it's not necessarily religious.
But there are other cultures that do use that as religious, in religious services. Michael and Don.
Yeah, I could tell you that the Indian, not the American, but the Indian culture, they use incense quite a bit. And the first time I personally experienced that is when I was way back when I first got to California, I was invited to the Hollywood Bowl to see and hear Ravi Shankar. He plays
sitar.
The sitar, yeah, thank you. The sitar. And they were burning, I'm talking thousands of people. If you've ever been to the Hollywood Bowl outdoors, it holds thousands of people. And it was a fog of incense burning. It was incredible. And it was not a pleasant for me. It was not pleasant at all. I suppose if you do it sparingly, it can be. And I know they also do it for spirit. The Indian, they do it actually for some spiritual reasons as well.
Yes. I'll go ahead, Don.
Yeah. Thank you, Amy, because you connected incense with memory. And it's been shown that there's a strong neurological connection between memory and the sense of smell. And I remember, David will probably remember in Proust In Search of Time Lost, where Marcel smells, every time he smells tea and biscuits, it takes him back decades to his childhood. But also these days, I mean, the most familiar kind of incense these days is weed. Just go down to the weed shop and buy. Weed incense can be a lot stronger than just odor, smell. It can have hallucinatory powers. So.
Okay. In some cases, when it's very dense, it can be calming. There is some sedative effects, depending on how it's made, and if that overwhelming experience that Michael experienced, it can also stimulate. So it depends on things, but there are other symbols involved in burning incense. Yes, Rabbi Mary.
Well, guys, have you been to church recently?
Yeah,
the
Psalter.
On a time?
That's right.
So we have that I just came from Spain, and at the big cathedral there, and Google this because it's quite fascinating. They have a container for the incense that's enormous, and 4 people have to swing it.
Wow.
And they don't do it all the time, but it's quite amazing. Now, my question to you is, when these days, the Jews, we use incense, not burnt, but we use the smell.
Havdalah service.
Also,
Exactly. Exactly.
and
Yes, Michael.
thank you. I think it's also used on Yom Kippur. Not the burning,
the
but the
end.
smell. Something is passed around, and
Yes,
people smell it.
That's in
that's
the
what we're
Havdalah.
discussing.
Yeah,
It's a
that's
part
the
of the Havdalah
Havdalah.
service.
Ah, okay,
Yes.
sorry.
Yes,
Now, what
Rabbi.
I want to mention is, and I say this when I lead or don't lead, but I say it on the Pesach Seder, is that we have a ceremony, a ritual in which is multi-sensory. And we do that many much for the kids. The more you bring explanations, the better you're going to remember. So we taste, remember we taste, we eat quite a bit. We taste, we drink the wine, we smell the food, and we smell, but coming back to what we do in the Havdalah. So we had a meal, and then we drank wine, and then we have the light that we see, and then we have the smell of the incense that we smell. So basically, we use, and probably if I think more, I'll have the touch. You know, you had the meal and you touched and so forth. So the issue of being multisensory could appeal for people maybe they don't have one of them, a blind person, or someone that cannot hear. Now, and we sing, so we have the hearing and you have the music as well. So I think that also in the ark, in the tent of meeting, we have that kind of behavior, that we want to reach everyone with everything that we can. Also, you know, when you make a barbecue, it smells too. So they are making a lot of barbecues there. So you have that smell.
That's true. Yes, Michael.
Along with the sense of smell, which I thank you, Amy, also for introducing that very much, and is the sense of taste. I know we're not talking about that, but it's also in that realm, the sense of taste. That's something, if you taste something that's just not good, that'll stay with you for a long time.
Yeah.
Sense of taste. It's like, it's like sight and sound, audio and video. They kind of go together, And so when you taste something, and so I get a real charge, Marty. Firstly, I get a real charge out of that saying. You have to acquire a taste. I mean, to me, that is such a ridiculous statement. So to me, what it means is this. It's pretty simple for me. If you put something in your mouth, some sort of a food, and you just don't want to eat it, in order to acquire a taste for that, you got to keep eating it until you like it, which is absolutely the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. It's stupid, and it could be whatever it is,
The human body does that with many, many different things that we come in contact with odors, with it. The more you experience it, the more you will accept it. It's no longer as offensive as time goes by. The same thing with taste, the same thing with touch, the same thing with sound.
The same thing with ear and with eyes.
That's right.
When you look at abstract painting, when you see abstract paintings, what is that? My kid can make it. So you have to learn and to adjust to abstract painting.
Yeah.
And I did that as an artist, I know. But you know what, Michael? When I went to a chamber music, the Kronos, and they were playing. I just left during the interval. I couldn't take it any longer.
Oh boy.
And it was the same that I didn't learn or accustomed to those things that don't have any harmony to me.
That's, I can't, I always wanted to talk to somebody. My experience in music goes a very long way. And I put together a manuscript about music because at one time, I thought about writing a book on music, all kinds of things in music. And I did my own research and experience. And you mentioned chamber music, right?
Yeah, I love it.
And so what I want to say is this. I personally, I just find chamber music, where chamber music belongs, in my opinion, for me, it belongs on a cemetery. It's not the kind of music that is very up. As a matter of fact, take a look at the word chamber. That's a very unusual word. It's a room, not a pleasant room, you know?
Right.
Chamber. For example, when you look back many years ago, there was a movie called The Chamber of Horrors, you know? In a firearm, you would the bullets in a chamber. These are, I said, there's so much negative. A judge has two rooms. He's got an office, and then he has chambers. Sometimes they have both. But what he does, what does he do in the office? He fills out papers, makes phone calls. But what does he do when he retires to his chamber? He is making decisions, sometimes on life and death. So, being in the music, this just took me to many, many different thoughts and avenues. And this is the type of stuff that I would put in a book. And I have a lot of this stuff. So I just thought you might find that interesting.
And that is why in many chambers music is played.
What?
Yeah.
That is why everything you mentioned, it's a smaller area that is secluded.
Right.
And it has many, many connotations, not just bad. Okay.
Right.
If you think of how it is used in another word for bathroom, another word for bedroom, another word for the person that takes care of cleaning those areas, the chambermaid.
Yeah, the chambermaid.
So
I think it's about the size.
That's right. And so it's a smaller area that is used for some other purpose. And in some cases it can be nefarious, and in some cases it can be very joyous and very relaxing. And you know, people who are claustrophobic, that's why they play, if you will, chamber music in elevators, because it's distracting for people who have claustrophobia getting into an elevator. Surprise. So it has been, there are many instances as to how this goes on. Yes, Don.
Yeah, I always understood that chamber music was to differentiate between concert music.
Yes, definitely.
It was within the home. Those that were wealthy enough to be able to invite music.
Yeah, that's how it's,
That's right.
But it just...
that's how it started.
Yeah.
That's right.
A chamber orchestra, Don, does not have horns, does not have instruments that are dynamic. A chamber orchestra usually has violins, and violins can be happy or sad, but violins are expressive, especially a cello. A cello is kind of a morbid sounding instrument, no matter how you play it. It has very low tones, and that's just the way they do it. And a chamber orchestra is an extraction of instruments in an orchestra. And when see?
But most people wouldn't want a big brass section in their parlor, though. You know?
They what?
Most people wouldn't want a big brass section in their parlor.
No, but if they have a very small, there's many different ways to go when you have a very small room. I performed in mostly small rooms, and it was very
Okay.
up tempo music for a lot of music that they could dance to. So the chamber orchestra really is something that really belongs in. You wouldn't, for example, you wouldn't find a chamber orchestra normally at a wedding. Normally, I mean, you get these DJs with music for dancing and having a good time, and so what Marty was saying for the most part is correct. But for example, you mentioned elevator music. Now, it is not required to put chamber music in an elevator. Supposing I get into an elevator and I want to dance.
You can, but you'd miss the point. There's a
I guess I
reason why
did.
the
So tell me
music is
about that
being
again. That's very
played.
interesting.
There's a reason why the music is being played, because people get claustrophobic in closed closets. An elevator is a moving closet. Okay. And so to distract them, you need something to occur. And in a closed environment, the most soothing effect you can have is music. And that's why music was chosen.
Yes,
to take
but
care
I just want to
of.
ask
That's
you
all.
this. Yeah. So who, I want to know who would be the authority to say that chamber music, that type of music, has to be in an elevator and it cannot be soothing jazz. Why?
Oh, it can. It can. It doesn't, it can include all of that. But the reason music is being played, whether it's chamber music, soothing jazz, popular music, the choice is soothing and calming. That's what is done. For that information, you can go back to Mr. Otis, the inventor of the elevator.
Yeah, well,
okay.
That's music, yes, that I always knew. That in an elevator going up.
Well, I don't want to digress more into this. We get into this is taking us far afield. I'd like to digress back to Torah.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway,
I get carried away with this stuff, Marty. Sorry.
Yeah, I understand. You have a lot to offer. That's why. So, any other comments about this? We only got to some of the. We didn't even mention about the purification. Why do we have to have a purification of the altar? Of this, and it's it's the altar for burning in the incense. Why do we have to purify it?
Well, it's all based on God. It's everything is offered to God. I see.
What happens to we? Okay, this will be the last physical part of incense. But what happens to incense when you burn it over and over and over again on a daily basis? Yes, Amy.
I used to, and I stopped doing it. I brought a lot of incense back from the Middle East because it left an accumulation of dirty smoke and smudge on everything that it settled on in the room. Yeah. Ceiling, walls, knickknacks, all of that.
Right. It's true. And it's not just incense. I mean, if you burn a fire for any reason, it's going to do the same thing. But incense specifically will leave a residue, and that has to be cleaned up constantly. That's right. Yes, Michael.
It would also be considered a carcinogen. Anything you burn would be a carcinogen. And so
they didn't know anything about that at that time.
Right.
Okay. They had no knowledge, no forethought about that. but that's a good reason for cleaning it up. Okay. So we can add that into the mixture, if you will. No pun intended. Yes, Don.
Yeah, Marty, it seems to me also we've reached a point in the Torah where the separation between the pure and the impure suddenly becomes important. And before then, it wasn't. But now, everything from foodstuffs to almost anything now. There's a line between the two. That this is on this side it's pure, and on this side it's impure.
That's right.
Yeah.
So we have.
And if you look at verse 9. At verse 9, it commands. Let me see the English. You should not bring alien incense. So it's a separation, as you said, Donna. It's a different one. It's a prescribed one. Yes.
And we're going to get into that very shortly in our reading. That's right. How to mix it up. And just as an aside, before we get into that part, the mixture required tremendous trade. Okay, and we'll talk about this as to where the ingredients come from and how expensive it was. It was even stored in the treasuries of King Solomon and other important figures, because it was so valuable. Okay, so all of this, none of this was commonplace. It was very difficult to even find and know about all of these different ingredients, and we'll get into that shortly. There is one thing else about incense that nobody has mentioned. Amy came close. Why is incense burned? I mean, you can smell incense. You can get aromatic herbs and like that and mix them up and smell it. But what is there something special about the burning of incense?
I'll take a stab at that.
Okay.
Would it have anything to do with ward off evil spirits or anything like that?
Oh, that is one ancient custom. Yes, it is one. Yes. That's another concept of it. You are very correct. But there's an even more that's visual. What happens to the smoke?
Because it rises upwards?
Yeah, rises up to the heavens. By the way, they even look at different color smoke when they do not name a pope in the voting, or they name a pope. They change the ingredients to change it from black to white smoke, but it rises to the heavens. Okay, it rises skyward. And in all ancient cultures, fires were built for that purpose, to ward off enemies, to ward off evil spirits. Okay, so there is a purpose with this. You are very correct. So, but also anything that rises to heaven will, even when you're burnt offering, the reason for burning it, the smoke rises to heaven. It rises skyward. Yes, Michael.
That's what came to mind also. This is just kind of a side thing, but when a pope dies and they're going to choose a new pope, the people wait to see. The smoke is black until it turns white. When it turns white, then the people know, the general public know there's a new pope, and that's
right.
Yeah, it's for communication. And in at Native Americans, what we call the communication is called smoke signals.
Yeah.
In which is just for the Pope.
Yeah. And so this shouldn't be foreign to us. But why it's being done spiritually is the important aspect of it. And that's why we're being told it has to be a certain ingredient. To make it holy, it has to remain a certain way. Okay, these are the ingredients, and this is how you're going to mix it up. Okay, and that's what we're going to be coming to now. So let's skip. Now there's an interlude before we get to that. If David or Michael would like to read verses 11 through 16.
Okay, I will be happy to read it, verse
Thank
11
you.
through 16.
This will be another good discussion.
All right. And the Lord spoke unto Moses, saying, when thou takest the stars of the sum of the children of Israel, according to their number, then shall they give every man a ransom for his soul unto the Lord, when thou numberest them, that there be no plague among them, when thou numberest them. This they shall give, every one that passeth among them that are remembered, half a shekel after the shekel of the sanctuary. The shekel is 20 gerahs, half a shekel for an offering to the Lord. And
Okay, why don't you go ahead through verse 16?
okay, everyone that passeth among them that are numbered from 20 years old and upward shall give the offering of the Lord. The rich shall not give more, and the poor shall not give less than the half shekel, when they give the offering of the Lord to make atonement for your souls. And thou shalt take the atonement money from the children of Israel, and shalt appoint it for the service of the tent of meeting, that it may be a memorial for the children of Israel before the Lord, to make atonement for your souls.
Okay. Yes, Helene, please.
I'm really sorry, but this is a health issue, and the doctor made a decision that was new, and he's on his way now, and I'm going to have to say goodbye, and God bless all of you.
Okay,
Bless you
thank
too.
you, Helene. I hope everything is okay.
And I'll see you, God willing, next week.
Right.
We'll look forward to it.
God willing.
Much love to
You
everybody.
will.
Yeah.
You
Take
will.
care.
And from us to you.
Thank you.
Thank you, honey. God bless you.
Bye-bye.
God bless you.
Yes, Don.
Leave.
Yeah, Aline, I hope you're okay. My point about the text, I think what we've just hit is the reason for the split between the Catholic Church and the Protestant Reformation, because it's so similar to the selling of favors by the priests, which is what triggered the break in the Catholic Church. I find it quite disturbing, actually, because it seems to me that that's what's going on here, is that the priests are selling favors. So I'll leave it.
Okay. So why when it says first you should be sure to take a census, and then you are to we have different words in our more modern English translation when you take a census of the Israelite people, according to their enrollment, each shall pay the Lord a ransom for himself on being enrolled, that no plague may come upon them through their being enrolled. What does all that mean? First, why?
The question is, what is a census? What is a census?
That's right. It starts off with that. Why should you not? Should you count all the people? Why should you do that?
We do the same. That's what we do.
Yes. Well, why is that done? Why is that done to this very day? Yes, Amy.
Well, there are several reasons. Many years ago, it was for military to find out how many eligible men you had that can serve and protect. Also, it can be a base for taxation.
Very good. Yes.
You have services that you offer the community, and you need to know what your tax base is to support those services.
Yes. Can you think of anything else? Those are usually the major reasons.
Well,
you nailed it.
Representation in
yes,
political representation.
Yes, that's one way a census can be used. Excuse me. Also, as we will learn, duties to perform. That's going to be very important. And okay, what else? What else? Any other ideas? How large a family is. Today we use it in a different way. And there's a history behind this in future years from this point on that there came a day of taxation. Tax increases would start on the same day. This became a very familiar type of issue, especially on during the high holidays. Okay, it's not just making a donation to the temple, but the community may have to increase taxes on those days. Okay, and then sometimes it was used against the Jewish people as well. Yes, Rabbi, you have the floor.
Well, just like the census that we do today, it's not just counting what we do, but we want to know how many people, let's say, speak another language. How many people are able to serve, and this is now, how many people are able to serve in the military? It says those that are giving this shekel for counting need to be 20 years and above. Now, you also want to know in this case that there is a counting not just for all Israel, but for the tribes. You want to know the size of a tribe. And how do you do it? What's the size of a tribe, since you don't have a territory? And perhaps the way that later on they divide the land of Canaan, it's connected with the number of people in each of the tribes. And as Marty said, you know, if there is something that has to be distributed, then you need to know how much. And remember that the Levites, those that attend to the altar, need to have money. They don't make any money. So perhaps the mathematics is on percentages. How many people you have, what percentage of money you need to contribute. This is not a tax. and because the tax is connected with how much you have already, and it's not a contribution, that your name is put on the synagogue because you. I was appalled when I heard, and it was on Yom Kippur, Rosh Hashanah, and people, the rabbis or the head of the board would say, okay, Marty gave $5,000 and Don gave 10,000. And then I said, well, I cannot give that. So all this issue with money and counting is quite important for the management of the entire people. And I said too much now.
No, actually, you really summarized it very well. Thank you. Michael.
I want to ask Rabbi Mary a question. And this is, I can't recall very well where, but I believe I heard someplace along the line, and this is the, I believe, would be the Orthodox situation, that the counting in the Jewish religion and the Orthodox, the counting of people somehow is a negative situation, not positive. Have you ever heard of that? No, I guess.
No.
Well, there are some people who interpret it that way. Okay, I've heard some people talk about it, that they won't fill out a census form. They don't want the government to know that they exist. Right. But they forget that the benefits that they receive, the amount of the benefits they receive, are determined by the census.
On the census form, they ask for your religion.
Mm-hmm.
They want to know what religion, what race, what
they
religion.
Used to. They've abandoned that.
Right, right. But they do ask how many people in your household.
Yes.
They ask all kinds of things that have to do with value things that you have. They don't ask about religion, but they ask about, that's not something that we do anymore. Or the
they want to know. That's right. They want to know sex. They want to know. They also want to know race or ethnic, background. And the reason is that a lot of money that is dedicated for the poor is based on that. And so as it's being distributed, it's distributed unevenly among the states, depending on how many people of certain ethnic groups or races are in that area that are going to receive the benefit. If they don't fill out the forms, they don't receive the benefit. And so and if perchance they are paid, that it counts as an overage. It puts because not enough money was allocated originally. Okay, so the census is a very important structure to it, and so I don't want to overemphasize the census, but those are the reasons why. Rabbi Mary summarized everything very, very well. Yes, Don.
One of the items Amy listed for the purpose of the census was to count how many available young men there were for the military.
Yes, we did, as Rabbi Mary said. That's right.
But also the purpose of taxation traditionally has been to finance an army. To have the treasury big enough for the ruling party to wage war on neighbors. And
that is more modern, but for this is done for a different reason.
Well, I don't know, because the Hebrews have a pretty strong attack army even at this point.
Yes, but it is not. That's not the main purpose of this. Okay, this is not, and it's specifically not for the purpose of raising an army.
How do we know that?
It is for a religious reason. And it's specific. It's to go directly to God. It is to cover the expenses in purchasing supplies and everything else for the temple. It is not that later on we'll get to the rest of it as far as the taxation. This is a different form of taxation, and it's very specific. It's for me, capital M-E. It's not for anything else. But there will be more taxation to come. But this particular...
With all due respect, it's God, the name, who is ordering his people to go on the attack. And so somebody's got to pay those troops.
Yes, that will come later, as you say. Yes. But this is different. This is for another reason altogether. Why is a ransom having to be paid? That's what it says here. Each shall pay the Lord a ransom for himself on being enrolled. What is the ransom about? What did God do for the people?
You're looking at 15?
Let's see where it is. No, verse 12. And it's uniform. It's for every single person. What Don is addressing, we will come back to later when they talk about other things. Yes. Yes, Amy.
Does it have anything to do with redemption?
From what?
Slavery?
Yes. Okay, it's thanking God. Mm-hmm. It's also going to be, there's another ransom to be paid. The firstborn. Why do you have to redeem the firstborn? So you can keep them. Otherwise, the firstborn is given to God.
Dedication.
Dedication, that's right. Dedicated to God. And so, but this is also even from the very, very poor to the very wealthy. What's being done here? There are several messages here, and important messages, yes.
One might be equality in the eyes of God. Whether you're rich or poor, you're all esteemed, you all have the same value.
That's right. But that's true. Now, some people would say, well, a poor person is having a harder time paying this than a very rich person. But why this amount? A small amount like this. Yes, go ahead. Yes, Amy.
Well, they're all receiving the same value.
Yes. Yes.
Or the benefit.
So that's another way of looking at it. Yes. What else can you say about it? You can turn it around a little bit. They all have the same skin in the game. No one has more skin in the game than the next person.
Exactly.
Okay. When you're taking care of, or when you're dealing with a poor person, there has to be some skin in the game for them. Otherwise, what you're giving may not be, it may be misunderstood as something bad or something super good. And, I don't have to pay this back in any way.
No,
but when it comes, that's right.
For each one of them. Now, if you recall, and we went through this already, there was the giving money, as I said, the 5,000 or the 10,000. We saw that, and in the sentence it says, each one is going to give money according to what his heart tells him to do.
Which is later. Now, that's right.
Yeah. So it is how much you are willing from your heart to pay. Because in another place, there are taxes. And the taxes are sometimes money and sometimes stuff, like the wheat that you leave on the sides, or the 10% that you give to the poor and the orphans and the widows. So this is really, Kofer Nefesh is for each one of us. And I think that perhaps 1 shekel or half a shekel was minimum that a person can give. Perhaps like 1 cent. Let's collect 1 cent from everyone. And probably everyone can do that, even the very poor.
Especially today with the value of a penny. I'm sure it's going to disappear eventually.
Yeah.
The French had fractions of a sou at one time. I don't know if you're familiar with that. A sou is like a penny, but they had fractions of a sou at one point in their history, which is very interesting. Good, that's all. But the point that Mary is making, that it was felt that they all had the same reason for leaving, as Amy said, and leaving Egypt. And this is something that ties in. When you're doing this, you're also remembering why you are now here. Okay. And how you got here. So there's a lot to be said, and that so it dovetails into this, and it's a fascinating concept that everyone is equal in the sight of God. And Rabbi and also Amy, we're addressing this. Very, very important concept.
It is.
Thank you, Grace.
And I think, and I think that this is a very noticeable in our religion, in our dat, because the issue of equality, I wouldn't say today, I mean, but it is one of our values. To respect the fact that some have more than others. And I'll tell you, and I don't know if it comes, so it's a rabbinical thing. The very poor people didn't have a cow to sacrifice.
That's right.
So they tell him, you know what, bring a bird. Can you bring a bird? Oh yeah, I can bring a chicken or a bird that flies. So they sacrifice that chicken without removing the feathers. Because if remove the feathers of a bird, it becomes very, very small. So not to shame people, they kept the feathers in that sacrifice, which I always found it very beautiful act. And the rabbis of the rabbinical era talk about the issue of the poor people very, very much.
Yeah. So it's and there's a lot more that will come to light. By the way, we've already discussed attitudes towards the poor. Okay. To look after them and everything else. All of this came up before in our discussion. Yes, Michael.
I think that God wanted equality among the people, that we should look at each other also for the sake of being kind to one another.
Yes.
Because you have more than I do, or the other way around, that means I'm a better person and I can get away with this and that. And I think God wanted to remove that. See? Wanted to remove that that we should not be evil to one another, but we should be kind and look at each other in a way that we are as good as anybody, and we should be treated as good as anybody.
And
Now,
then
this issue comes also with judgment. When you judge, when you are a judge and it comes up, you're not going to differentiate in the judgment
right.
between rich and poor. And if we go today, it's not exactly as it is or should be, but the symbol of judgment, as you know, it's this sculpture that stands in front of court, that how it is described with the scale and what else?
Oh, the scales and blindfold. Yes, that's right.
Right.
That's right.
So we say, do not see the difference of people, as Michael
Right.
said. Everyone is equal,
Good.
which is not in our society, but
Okay. Don has been having, wait a minute, Michael. Don has had his hand up for a very long time.
That's okay. Just quick one first in regard to equal. I remember in Orwell's Animal Farm where some are more equal than others. But
yeah.
But what I really wanted to say was, with 2 weeks off, I'd had a chance to drill back into what we've been discussing, and it seems to me that a lot of what's in Exodus at this point is about the beginnings in Judaism of free will and the management of free will, because going back to Genesis, God gave us all free will, except don't eat of the fruit of the tree. But apart from that, you know, you can do whatever you want. And then we've been in trouble for all those centuries because we do what we want, and we get ourselves into all kinds of trouble. And all of a sudden, here we are in Exodus, where suddenly we have 200 some odd rules kind of fencing us in about what we can't do. And I'm wondering if, as Jews, this is the turning point. We're like, okay, you finally proven to God that you just can't handle free will, and I'm going to have to lay down some laws here and tell you what's out of bounds, what isn't. So, thank you.
You're welcome. Go ahead, Michael. You got the floor.
Yeah, thank you. Going back to Judge Mary, Rabbi Mary, and the judges, I would say like this: who are you to judge me?
Yeah, that's a powerful statement, a powerful question, I should say. Yes, yeah. Amy.
With regard to something Rabbi Mary just said about justice and being blind, reminded me that a famous orchestra, I believe it was a New York orchestra, realized as they were auditioning musicians to fill certain vacancies that the majority of their musicians were older men. And a complaint had been filed of maybe discrimination or that they were weighing in favor of what they perceived to be a more experienced musician. So they changed the nature of their auditions, and the musicians auditioned behind a curtain so that they couldn't visually see the gender or the age of the musicians, and greatly enhanced the balance, as it turned out, ironically enhanced the balance of age in their orchestra. I thought that was very interesting.
And
so
gender,
once you level
and
up,
gender.
And gender, exactly.
And gender, everything. So there's something to be said when on the quality. Okay, when you're selecting, in everything, don't take into account. It's not just wealth or poverty. It's not just gender. It's not just religious background. It's not just social status. It's not just everybody is equal here. And when many decisions have to be made in the law, the interpretation of law, you want this if you want a just justice. Okay? Yes, Michael.
Thank you, Amy. That's what you said is so important.
Yeah.
With this business, because the orchestra leader, the conductor, would want the best musician because it's about the music. It's not about the gender, the age, the education. It's all about the musician. You can get a musician that never took a music lesson in their life, and they can be fantastic, but they go about it the wrong way. And as Marty says, and I have to agree with, in all of life, you find that today I've been experiencing this. Corporations, they hire young college students that just graduated college. They're educated, but what they completely neglect is intelligence. They don't focus on it. They're only on education. And they're two separate things.
Yes. Grace just said it in the chat room here. One of my thoughts is the census is a way to provide balance of the general population. Those are her exact words. And yes, it is very true. So all of the different ways that this balance affects the society, you start saying, oh yeah, this is a good way to start. That's all, and so because this is the first role, that it's going to cost a little something to join the club. Okay.
Now, I would like for us to remember what the population that we're talking about. I'm going back to the tribes. Each tribe has people. Now, the tribe of Levi, is the federal government. Let's put it that way.
That's a quickie.
Now, the federal government cannot pay the teachers and the roads and the airports and whatever, unless the population of the tribes contribute to the federal. That's why when people complain about taxes, I think that they don't have a clue what the taxes do. Oh, they are taking my money. Well, they're not taking your money. They're taking your money so you can get the services that are offered not in your tribe, but as central. In those days, the central is the temple or the tent of meeting. So we need to understand that kind of build, that it's not exactly what we do, but there are analogies, but not exactly.
Right. It's like paying your temple dues. Everybody pays the same.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
And then you can still have donations on top of that. It's the same concept. Same concept. Any other comments? What about by the way, verse 16, Don, is an answer to your it is an answer to what you said the money was used for. this specific money is only for the temple, for the tent of the meeting, okay? And it shall serve, it says specifically to take the expiation money from the Israelites and assign it to the service of the tent of meeting. And it shall serve as a reminder to the Israelites that they've been saved, if you will, from Egypt. So that's its specific purpose here. So now we get back. Now, why is it important to have this interlude before you go into the further construction of the incense, the stand that's going to burn the incense? Why do you need to have this in place beforehand? As a reminder that the whole thing that they're doing is rather expensive. We've discussed this before. They're going to have to get things from afar. Okay, it's not just local. Okay, let's go on to verse 17 through 21. I forget who did the I guess Michael, you're up if you feel up to it.
You're muted,
You're muted, Michael.
Yes, sorry. No, I'm gonna pass. My eyes are getting pretty dried out. It's not good.
Okay, I understand. Okay, thank you, David.
Okay, verse 17. And the Lord spoke unto Moses, saying, Thou shalt also make a layer of brass, and the base thereof of brass, whereat to wash. And thou shalt put it between the tent of meeting and the altar, and thou shalt put water therein. And Aaron and his sons shall wash their hands and their feet thereat. When they go unto the tent of meeting, they shall wash with water, that they die not. And when they come near to the altar to minister, to cause an offering made by fire, to smoke unto the Lord, so that they shall wash their hands and their feet, and they die not. And it shall be a statute forever to them, even to him and to his seed throughout their generations.
Okay. Any comments here? Yes, Michael.
Yeah.
I noticed Michael's hand was up first, and Don, and Amy.
Yeah.
Okay. It may be reversed. I'm going to let everybody fight it out.
And again, I would talk about the Orthodox position on washing.
Yes.
The washing of hands, the feet, I suppose, in some of the sects, but the washing of the hands is quite important. You wash before you pray, and especially I could remember my grandparents when it came to the Seder service at his home, and the washing. My grandmother would bring a bowl, and he would wash his hands right after each blessing or whatever it was. So, and then when you leave a cemetery, you wash, and there are different things with the cleansing and the washing. So the washing of the hands, once again, I would say is very, very critical, at least in the Orthodox.
Okay. So why wash the feet too?
Well, because I think it's because if you wash your hands, and the feet is about you're standing, or it has to do with presenting yourself in the cleanest possible way to God. That's the only thing that I could come up with.
Okay, Amy, you, and then Dawn.
Well, you wash your feet because your feet are on the ground. They're the dirtiest part of your body. And one of the ways of showing unhappiness or disrespect in these ancient cultures was to shake your foot at someone, like you're shaking the dirt kind of in their direction. So it's the same thing as the purification of the altar, cleaning it and making it ready to before God. You do the same thing to your body. You cleanse yourself to make yourself more presentable to God.
Yeah. Let alone the oils from your body tarnishing some of the metals that are there. Okay. Yeah. Okay, Don, and then back to Michael.
No, I didn't have any comment. Right?
Oh, I thought you had your hand up before. Okay, go ahead, Michael.
In the Muslim religion, and thank you, Amy. In the Muslim religion, I believe that throwing a shoe at somebody it would be the most disrespectful thing you could possibly do. And now that reminds me of something that it's not funny, but when I think a Muslim reporter threw a shoe at President George Bush, that was quite.
No.
It
was at
it's considered insulting.
At Khrushchev.
Khrushchev also did that in the 50s. That's right. He took his shoe off and pounded it on the table. That's right.
Yeah, pounding it. But what was very, very good, I admired his George Bush's reflexes because he dodged both shoes.
Okay. Yes, Amy.
Well, another thing about the feet, in many cultures, it is not acceptable to show the sole of your foot. So many, especially men, will cross their legs with one ankle over a knee, which would show the bottom of their shoe or the bottom of their foot. And that is just not, that's a huge insult because that's
it is
disrespect by showing what they consider the dirtiest part of your body, presenting it to them.
Yeah. So here so can you think of other Rabbi Mary also mentioned something that was important with certain the rituals. Okay, that is, and it's very important. But also, and Michael also addressed this before, certain other, and each one has its own specific reason, but they all have the one thing in common, so that impurities are not brought into the sanctuary or into the home or things like that. Yes, Michael.
Yeah, one important thing about defeat is nobody likes to lose.
Nobody likes to
lose.
Interesting.
Defeat.
Very good. Very good. Amy, go ahead.
Another thing about the feet is if you wash the feet of another, you are showing love and respect. The popes have done it. Jesus did it. It's a known ritual of humbling yourself.
Humility.
Yes.
And it is quite a precious thing to do to another, to someone whom you love. It shows devotion and raising them up above yourself.
There's
you're right, Amy. And the text just came by is that when Abraham is sitting in front of his tent and he's receiving three people, some people say angels, he invites them, and the first thing
Yes.
he does is washes their feet.
Perfect. Yes.
That's what, yeah. The other one that I wanted to remind you, if you remember when Moses went to the bush, to the burning bush, what's the first thing that the burning bush tells
Yes.
him, or God tells him?
Before he does
He
anything
says,
else.
Remove your shoes or your whatever you're wearing, because you're standing on
Hey.
hollow ground.
Exactly, on holy ground. That's exactly. So the earth, the soil is holy. And that's the command that he has. The first thing, take off your shoes because this is a sacred, a holy place.
Right. So this is a very, so I think we really, any other comments I should ask first before I make us move ahead?
I just want to mention that during the Middle Ages, Martin helped me, there was a pandemic of, I don't know, the black.
A Black Plague?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as
Bubonic
it
plague.
happened,
That's right.
any pandemic that was there, and the Jews were blamed for it. Now, why was happening? One of the things that was happening is that there were not many Jews getting the pandemic. And they try, so today we try to figure it out. Then they blame whatever because they were Satan. But the issue of washing your hands before eating, washing your hands in the morning before praying, washing your hands very, very, and then, as Marty knows, the doctors realize that that's a number one thing to do before you touch or you cut up something.
But that comes hundreds of years later. It took us a long time to realize that. And now we're retrogressing. Anyway, any other comments about the washing? Again, there's going to be a smoke offering by fire. Well, we've discussed the smoke and like that. So we can move on ahead. Why don't, if someone would like to read verses 22 through 30.
Okay, I'd be happy to if no one else.
Please, Dave. Please, David.
Okay. Moreover, okay, I've started. Moreover, the Lord spoke unto Moses, saying, take thou also unto thee the chief spices of flowing myrrh 500 shekels, and of sweet cinnamon half so much, even 250, and of sweet calamus 250, and of cassia 500, after the shekel of the sanctuary, and of olive oil a hin. And thou shalt make it a holy anointing oil, a perfume compounded after the art of the perfumer. It shall be a holy anointing oil. And thou shalt anoint therewith the tent of meeting, and the ark of the testimony, and the table and all the vessels thereof, and of the candlestick and the vessels thereof, and the altars of incense, and the altar of burnt offering with all the vessels thereof, and the layer and the base thereof. And thou shalt sanctify them, that they be most holy. Whatsoever touches them shall be holy. And thou shalt anoint Aaron and his sons, and sanctify them, that they may minister unto me in the priest's office.
Okay. I don't know if you added some of that verbiage or if it's actually in your translation.
I think I might have added a word or two.
Okay. Okay. Anyway, any comments about what David has just finished reading? Any comments about the ingredients?
Beyond the ingredients, look at the prices of stuff.
Yes.
And for those prices, who's going to pay for?
That's right. So it's part of that's why it was important to raise some money to do this. It's going to be used, part of it is going to be used for this purpose. But if you want, I did a little reading about this, and it's fascinating to see where these things came from. Okay, it's not locally grown, which is interesting. It's an aromatic incense. Okay, and Rabbi Mary, would you like to speak to the term, the word ketoret, if I'm saying it, if I'm pronouncing it correctly?
What verse are you talking about?
This would be in oh, wait a minute, I think I may have moved ahead. Just one second. Oh, no, I moved ahead, and I apologize. I apologize. I moved ahead briefly, and I shouldn't have. But
what they were doing,
they were doing
they were not just pouring this. They had to mush it, and it becomes
a
paste. A paste.
It's like a paste that can be molded into
right,
little cakes.
Right.
That's right. But
and
some
today
of this,
in Hebrew, in modern Hebrew, that word became pharmacist and pharmacy.
Yes. Cinnamon has to come from far away. There are different types of cinnamon. Some of you are probably aware that a lot of cinnamon can come from Africa, can also come from Asia. And in some cases, okay, it comes from the Far East, from China, and the Far Eastern states. So trade routes were already, it's hinting that trade routes were already established for this to occur. This predates, okay, the trade routes, the major trade routes between the Chinese and Persians, okay, so which come later. It's more heavily established. But in Roman times, which is also going to come later, this trade route is also important. Okay, and in Greek times, it's also important. Alexander the Great wants to get all this and have command of it. I mean, this is a big deal financially. Only he can't take over what was it, the Spice Road or something like that. I don't remember, but this trade route was very, very valuable. And Genghis Khan will come on the scene, and he's going to formalize everything, historically. So all of this was in place.
Yeah.
All of this was in place. Yes. Michael, you were going to add to that.
But I would just say this. Back then, you couldn't do it, but today, you can get it at Costco. I couldn't help that. I apologize.
That's good. You probably can.
To go to Africa.
That's right. But it's interesting that some of these products that are mentioned have been used medically in smaller amounts, historically, not so much today. But it's just a very interesting concept about this. And then what about this is going to be all mixed in with, I guess, virgin olive oil. Okay.
Yep.
Good. And it's going to be made into a compound, and it's going to be sacred. Okay. And what does it say? The offering, everything about this table, and then it goes on to talk about the rest of the different tables and everything. Everything is most sacred, most holy, and that's why everybody has to be consecrated before. It goes into that as to why everyone has to wash, everyone has to do everything a certain way, because this is going to be holy ground. Any other comments about this?
It's
Yes, go ahead.
it's remarkable that all of these laws that create Judaism is quite to me remarkable. I don't think there's such things that are so defined in any other religion. Everything is so critical. If you drop a sitter on the floor, you have to pick it up and kiss it. At least in the Orthodox, and it's in our temple here in Green Valley. I see people sometimes they put their sitter on the floor because there's not enough room. They have to hold their purses up, and they put it on the floor. And I look at that, and because that's not my teaching, that's not the way I grew up.
Sure.
And so I get these mixed feelings, but there's so much to Judaism, and it's just it's mind-boggling. And I think that's what happened. That's the transition from Orthodox to Reform. I think the Reform took a lot of these things out of the religion, because the Reform I think started actually in Germany. The Reform. And because of the way people looked, they wanted to blend in when they came to the United States, but also it got into the religion itself, the Reform. So I don't want to go far afield with this, but sometimes one thing leads to another, Marty, and I get caught.
I understand. That's what we do each week. Any other comments about this? Okay. Why don't we read on? David, if you would like to read verses 31 through, I'm looking at the clock too. Yeah, we can. Why don't you read 31 through 38?
Okay, you got it. And thou shalt speak upon to the children of Israel, commanding them to look through their telescopes, and saying, there shall be a holy, I couldn't resist that. There shall be a holy anointing of oil unto me throughout your generations. Upon the flesh of man shall it not be poured, neither shall ye make any like it according to the composition thereof. It is holy, and it shall be holy unto you. Whosoever compoundeth any like it, and whosoever putteth any of it upon a stranger, he shall be cut off from his people. And the Lord said unto Moses, take unto thee sweet spices, stacte, and onycha, and galbanium, sweet spices with pure frankincense. Of each shall there be a like weight. And thou shalt make of it incense, a perfume unto the art of the perfumer, seasoned with salt pure and holy. And thou shalt beat some of it very small, and put of it before the testimony in the tent of meeting, where I will meet with thee. It shall be unto you most holy. And the incense which thou shalt make, according to the composition thereof, ye shall make for yourselves. It shall be unto thee holy for the Lord. Whosoever shall make like unto that, to smell thereof, he shall be cut off from his people.
Okay. Any
You
comments?
see, Don, your question is exactly the same word here.
That's right.
Avaed, I'll meet with, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, Don.
Well, I'm interested, a couple of things. One is that the threat of excommunication people for disobedience, that's always been the most powerful punishment, apart from killing, is just to be separated out and barred from coming back into the tribe. So that's one thing that pops out at me here. And the other again is how specific these instructions are from God. I mean, we've gone from the generic, be good, down to the smallest minutia. And going back to what Michael said about the putting the sitter on the floor, there's scores, hundreds of small little variations of law that can lead to excommunication. And so we've gone down into the tightest control of free will that you can imagine at this point. So, first reaction.
Very good, Don. Very good. Yes, Rabbi Mary.
Don, we have it here in one of the verses that David read, not the one about the telescope, but others.
I'm sorry about that.
There is a recipe here, like if I'm going to make a bœuf bourguignon, and that's my specialty in my restaurant, I'm not going to give you the recipe. And if you try to copy it and make the same one, that's when you are out there. And this is very similar to the issue of the scroll of the Torah. We designated that as holy, or the sanctuary, or the ark in the synagogue. This is going to be a holy place. Well, nothing happens when something is holy. It's your determination of the holiness that you put there. And here is the same thing. That mix of stuff is holy, and only the high priest and his children can get to that. And if you copy that mix, you're out of it. It cannot be done. It cannot be done because his is holy. Why is his holy and not the one you're making? God knows.
That's a good way of putting it.
That's why we have patent law.
Any other comments about it? But it's true. So now we've made it holy. God has made it holy here. And just a comment, you look up some of these herbs and do you know what if I use the word onychia, what does that refer to? This says onycha, but what are onychia? you have multiple onychia.
What's the verse?
Verse 34. Yes. Take
So the
the
question
herbs.
is,
So it says, take the herbs,
34.
stacte,
Okay.
onica, and galbanum. What is onica?
Well, what they talk here is that they give us names. And this is Miri claiming. There are names here, and what we do, because we need naming stuff, we're going to translate, and we're going to say, okay, this is basil, basil, and this means rosemary, and so forth. We really do not know exactly what it was.
Right.
Olive oil we know, and some others we know, or cinnamon, and these days we use the same word cinnamon in Hebrew. But so those things that you're talking about, if I'm dead, ushchelet וחלבונה, הסמים ושכלת והלבונה. I no idea. I no idea.
Yeah.
And it could be, it's like when we see that the word beheme, these days we use it as a curse, behema, we decided that this is either a crocodile or maybe it's
right.
But
we don't know.
We really
That's right.
do not know. Let me see what Friedman said.
The reason I bring it up is what struck me is the Latin word for nails, your fingernails. Okay, it's onychia. Okay, and so that is why some people thought it came from a mollusk shell that looked like the human nails. That's the derivation of it. We really don't know. Okay, and
you know, and you know what,
that's right.
Marty? That use creates the color, the pigment blue. And the
yes.
blue thing in the thread in the talit was used from what you're talking about. Molecule, not molecule, mollusk,
mollusk,
one of
that's
these
right.
little things is right. So that's what it's explaining today, to have it kosher of kosher of kosher, the blue thread in the talit. Personally, ich weiß nicht. I don't know.
You don't know. But for example, and I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly. Stacte.
Verse.
It's same verse. It precedes onica. Onica.
Spell it.
Stacte.
Oh.
It's a form of myrrh. Okay,
Could be.
we're more
That's
accustomed.
what. Yeah, Friedman said myrrh.
Yeah. Sometimes we won't know exactly. But galbanum.
Well, maybe we should ask a priest in one of the churches that they have some kind of scent coming. If they mix all kind of stuff, maybe we'll reveal the smell. I don't know.
These, but these have it's. I have that the stacte. I'm just going to pronounce it that way. I'm not sure how you say it, but it's a sweet spice. Okay.
Could be.
And this was described by an ancient Kasuto, not so ancient, as a balsam dripping from resinous trees, similar to myrrh,
Yeah,
which has a totally
could be.
different name.
Yeah.
And then
Now,
galbanum is still used in some herbal remedies. Okay, it's not recommended because it can be very poisonous, and if you don't get the dose just right, it can really cause some harm. But it's a gum resin, which is has a strong and somewhat unpleasant odor, and Friedman also says used in medical practice, but it's not traditionally anymore. It's
Yeah.
in the
Could be.
remote past. And then frankincense, okay, another aromatic gum resin. Now, of interest, okay, here, galbanum is from the Orient, and it is extremely expensive. Okay. That's all I'm going to say. And it probably cost a lot of silver or gold to purchase. Remember, it had to be transported over a great distance. And what did the three wise men bring as gifts? Yes, Amy? I say, okay, Amy, let Suzanne answer it because she hasn't had a chance to say anything today.
Frankincense,
Yeah.
and gold.
Okay, but if something was very expensive, maybe the galbanum was worth its weight in gold. Anyway, yes, Amy.
It was gold, frankincense, and myrrh.
That's right.
Yeah, that's what I said.
That's what she just said. Everybody had a slightly different order.
I
but
didn't
yes.
hear her say myrrh. I'm sorry, Suzanne.
Yeah, I said myrrh.
So I think that it was very interesting in and of itself. Well, what I'm going to do is stop here. I know Michael wanted to say a few words about Betty.
No, I wanted to just talk to you privately about the.
Oh, okay.
If I could talk to you after the Torah study for a few
it'll be
minutes.
okay. Yeah, give me some time for lunch. I haven't eaten for a long time today.
Yeah, we're gonna go. So it'll be in the afternoon if you're available.
Okay, that'll be fine.
Thank you. Thank you.
Michael,
okay.
Give Betty my love.
Thank you very much.
Yes, very good. And I hope everyone is feeling better. And I hope everything is okay with Helene. We'll find out next week. And yes. Any other comments? Yes, Michael.
Yeah, I'll just make a comment about what's happening at the temple. As far as I know, I'm not sure what's going on between now and the end of the year, but on January 1st, there will be a New Year's Day party. And so everyone is welcome to attend that if they wish. And maybe Amy has some information between now and then, I don't know, about any more announcements.
Well, the Hanukkah party.
That's right. That's great. Thank you.
Going to be, and I know the Men's Club and Sisterhood are involved in that.
I want to do this quickly. The number of COVID cases in Pima County is rising.
Going up.
Two very close friends of mine just got COVID. And they are very cautious with the mask. So just know, small places.
Yes. This is something
you want to cover your eyes too, but
no, but it's something that things may change, and even though everyone is working on things, COVID is still going to take priority, especially in groups of people who are older and the maladies that they may have. We have to take all that into consideration. So we'll see what transpires. Amy and then Michael again.
Michael, did you have in mind the suspension of the Misha Bear list? Is that what you thought I might address?
I don't, please repeat that, Amy, please.
Well, you thought I might have an announcement to make. Did it have anything to do with the Misha Bear list?
No.
Oh, what did you have in mind?
Well, I wanted to know if you knew of any other announcements. Marty mentioned the Hanukkah party. So, other than that, I'm not aware of any other. I was, but I forgot the Hanukkah party. So I thank you, Marty.
Okay, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Well, actually, there was one thing. Do you believe, since you mentioned this, the resurgence of this COVID virus, I was going to ask Marty a question, kind of a medical question, I suppose. The ones who have 4 shots, the 2 main shots and the 2 boosters, how well, in your opinion, are those people protected?
Well, let's put it this way. The COVID injections are based on any vaccination, anything is on an older version. So as a newer version comes in to play, we do not have any immunity against that. So this is a new strain of the COVID virus. So the injections that we have all taken are not going to be effective against it, but it does medicate how you respond to the COVID virus in general. So you may catch it, but it will not be as severe as if you did not have any vaccinations whatsoever. So after this one, the next batch will include this new strain, but it will always be behind. You can never create a vaccine in anticipation of something. You don't have its genetic structure yet. Okay? And these are all based on RNA. It's even better than what we've had before in vaccines, because before it was just the general vaccine. But it's a very expensive way. Later on, maybe 50 years from now, COVID may not be as bad. Okay? And it's just like getting a flu shot every year, because they will have determined which strains are more likely to pop up every so often. And that's why we take flu vaccines. So right now, yes, we'll always be behind with COVID for at least 50 years until we know the cycle for each one of the variants. And then we try to outguess it. And sometimes it gets wrong. But fortunately, most of the time they get it right. But new ones come along, and we can't say for sure as to how it will be. But at this time, we have to be sort of careful. That's all. Maybe if you've already had COVID, it's a blessing in disguise, because it gives you a better chance of having your immune system set up for the next one. But there's no guarantee that you won't get at least cold symptoms or flu symptoms. You just, and that's why I think in general today, especially, this is a good reminder that when you have the flu or a cold, stay home or wear a mask if you must go somewhere. Okay? Because that's what passes it along. And everyone else, including the person who has it, has to practice good hand washing, which we were talking about. So that's the best we can offer.
Yeah, thank you, Marty.
You're welcome. I'm sorry, but it's a I'm sorry for the lengthy discussion, but you have to understand a lot of the biology involved.
Yeah, thank you.
Anyway, we're approaching. I have nothing else to talk about right now.
Thank you, Marty. You are just wonderful, and thank you for the group.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Group
Marty.
can be small and still wonderful.